It's refreshment time, folks.
I have to return some videotapes.
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Do you like scary movies, Sydney?
You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. Don't need a TV.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
Over 1,600 titles, each for rent at just $2 the first night, and only...
Finish it.
I don't watch TV.
Yeah, but you are aware that there's an invention called television, and on this invention they show shows, right?
Tonight on 6 Ed World.
Okay, I want channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and Weather Channel.
Welcome to the Frog Brothers Podcast with your hosts, Justin and Alec.
Hello! It's the 4th of July week.
The week of the 4th of July. Fireworks, fireworks, fire, fire. Hey, butthead. Damn it, Beavis. You can't set off any fireworks in my house. Stick this in your butt and go set yourself off like a rocket. Don't mind if I do. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so yesterday the little Kittner boy died. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did. Poor little fucker got ate by a shark.
God damn. Shit's
terrible.
Getting crazy out there. We gotta close those beaches.
Yeah. You must close the beaches.
We must close the beaches.
So it's our 4th of July extravaganza. I am Justin, one of your co-hosts of the Frog Brothers podcast, and with me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Alec.
Hello, and welcome to the Frog Brothers Podcast. Hi-ho, welcome to the Frog Brothers Podcast.
Oh, Kermie, we love the Frog Brothers podcast.
Alright, so did you check out this Ferris Bueller Reunited part yet?
Negative, Ghost Rider. I have not had the chance to sit down and watch that yet.
Well, it was pretty glorious. Pretty much everyone you wanted to see in there, except Edward Rooney, for obvious reasons. And the only other person I wish they had was Charlie Sheen. Because,
that would have been perfect.
He should have come in there at the end and been like, there's someone you should meet. If you say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle. But it was pretty funny.
Know the guy?
As they're always kind of amusing, you know, they have their little scripted bits at the beginning. When his with Matthew Broderick was pretty funny. And
yeah,
then,
where they're trying to get the whole crew together.
And they talk about John Hughes a lot, you know. And then they talk about him at the end. And you need to see this because they have a bunch of pre-recorded message videos that they play of people reciting quotes from their movies that are John Hughes written.
That's awesome.
So you literally have Chevy Chase doing his, "We're 10 hours from the fucking fun park and you want to bail out" speech. You have Steve Martin, I can't remember what he does, but it's something from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You have the mother from Home Alone. The woman who's trying to hit on Uncle Buck. It's like one of the, you know, fucking the nerd from Breakfast Club, Anthony Michael Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other kid from Weird Science, like a bunch of them. It just over and over. As soon as you think it's like, oh, I've seen about everybody, it just keeps going. So it's pretty sick. You should check that out, definitely. Beverly D'Angelo with Christmas Vacation quotes.
Nice. I'll be looking for that here then this week sometime when I get some downtime.
I was going to say, even if you're not a huge Ferris Bueller person, knowing the John Hughes person you are, the ending is worth it.
No, I enjoy Ferris Bueller quite a bit. I just haven't got around to that one.
I always love Alan Ruck, so, you know. Rabbit is good, rabbit is wise.
Oh, yeah. I haven't been into my YouTube because I subscribe to the show, so I need to get in there and check that out.
Sure do.
So, I was listening to Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend earlier today, and I would highly suggest you listen to the episode with Mike Myers. We won't play the clip on here, but there's a spot in the episode where Mike Myers is talking about, like, living, you know, being sad when a movie's over, because he wants to stay and like live in that movie universe because things are funny. And one of the movies he mentioned specifically is Ghostbusters. So knowing Mike Myers, like he's got such a broad comedy background, I had no idea that he was such a fan of that movie. And to have him like name that one specifically, I was like, makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty good episode. He talks a lot about how things are, how a little bit about when Conan was writing on Saturday Night Live, and some of the jokes that he would play on people when he was working on there with Mike Myers coming on the show. So pretty good stuff. Highly recommend listening to that one.
That sounds awesome.
So what's your favorite music to listen to on the 4th of July?
I know what you're going to say, but I would say, I don't know, shit like you'd hear in 80s movies, specifically like action movies and theme songs. Big distorted guitars, but they usually would be synthesizers in there.
Okay.
And you might be thinking, oh, there's Rush, but no, Rush is Canadian. Can't listen to Canadian music on the 4th of July.
No, so a couple of years ago, I was at so two stories here. I was at my neighbor's, my old neighbor's 4th of July party, and, people are setting off fireworks and having a good time, and, like, we're getting real patriotic, and we'd been having a few drinks, and so I wound up playing some tunes from the Team America World Police soundtrack, and fucking, that was, like, the hype music everyone needed to blow shit up for America Day. So that was wildly entertaining. But on that note, that was the night that I ran into one of my buddy Tyler's friends, who's a tattoo artist as well, and he had this huge Slimer tattoo on his leg, so I got to talking to him about it, right, and told him, I was like, oh man, I'm going to come and get a Slimer tattoo from you, and I think he thought I was, like, full of shit, so when I finally hit him up the next year, like early on in the year, like 6 months later, I hit him up and I came in there. I was like, hey man, come and get that Slimer tattoo. So we kind of planned it out and got it going. And he's like, man, we were both so drunk when you said that. I was like, yeah. I was like, but that was some serious business right there. It's like, you can't forget about your Slimer tattoo. So,
right.
Pretty good times there. So some great music, some Team America World Police, and then the path of getting the Slimer tattoo. Which is interesting because that was the first Ghostbusters tattoo I got. So, and I got a little banger job of the logo for a Friday the 13th thing, which the shop owner said he threw on there because of me. He follows me on Instagram. That's Tyler's brother's shop. So, kind of funny just seeing like the stuff you put in people's minds when they see what you're out there doing. So, what was your first one?
I only have 1.5. And by a half, I mean I do have a portrait of Bill Murray on my forearm, but it is from Stripes. But I didn't get it because I love Stripes. Obviously, I got it because I love Bill Murray, although I do love Stripes. I mean, let's be honest.
Stripes
but I also
is amazing.
just have the logo up on my upper right arm where it would be under the patch. So
I feel that. So Ghostbusters Day got moved this year. They announced this week that it's going to be July 1st, so you may hear this before then, you may not, but they announced that they're going to be playing playing the Ghostbusters in theaters and drive-ins in select areas starting July 1st for Ghostbusters Day. Supposedly there's a 9-minute clip ahead of the movie. Kind of see what that's all about. Hopefully some good stuff in there. I don't think we're going to get a second trailer yet. I just think it's way too early to release a second trailer for a movie that doesn't come out till March, assuming that they don't start delaying stuff again with the rate COVID's going right now. So, yeah, I'm not going to put a lot of stuff into that, but I'm hoping we'll get some other cool stuff in there. Maybe we'll actually get Bill Murray to just sit in there and talk about it a little bit more, because he's really seems nostalgia bound and just for all his old stuff, so especially Ghostbusters. I think he's at that point where he really appreciates it now, so I think hopefully we'll get a chance to see maybe him in there talk a little bit for Ghostbusters Day, which could be interesting.
Nice. I picked up, today I went to Walmart and picked up the Top Gun Maverick toys that are appearing. They're Matchbox. Each one of them comes with 5 different vehicles. There's 4 cars, and each one also comes with a plane. The packaging on them is slightly different. I'll have to send you some photos, or I'll up some to our podcast page, but one of them looks like it's supposed to be like Maverick is maybe the pilot, because it has like extra graphics on the box, a picture of a pilot version, and it says Maverick.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
The other one doesn't say anything on it. And then I hit up the Goodwill in town and cleared out the VHS section.
Yeah, you called me when you were there, and like the goods you found there were fucking unreal. It was like, holy shit! Are you sure that's not like a store that's like Suncoast? It felt like you were in Suncoast Motion Picture Company when you called me and named off all the movies they had in there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna name a few of them off here. I'm not gonna stop and ramble about them all, but I did get Jingle All the Way, Cool Runnings, Desperado, X-Men, GoldenEye, Scrooged, Flatliners, Lake Placid, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, Ninja Turtles 3, The Mask, Armageddon, The Fast and the Furious, Deep Blue Sea, The Mummy and the Mummy Returns, Stand By Me, and Final Destination.
That is quite the haul, sir.
Yeah, it sounds like a bunch of tapes you'd fucking rent in like 1999.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds like the type of stuff we would get when we used to go up to Hastings. Remember Hastings by us?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that place had like 49-cent rentals, man. They had all the good stuff there.
Yeah, I miss that place.
Don't we all? So I also hit the thrift stores up the other day, just looking around after I saw my kids on the weekend, and we, well, it was just me. But I think I hit you up when I was out there, out and about on the town.
Yeah.
And I found a couple of things. Nothing really earth-shattering, but I found a brand new copy of Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan. And basically, I only bought that because you said that was one of your favorite Friday the 13th movies. So I figured I'd get that so we can cover it on the podcast sometime, talk a little bit more in depth on it. I found
that one is probably my favorite Friday the 13th, and that's because I don't take those movies seriously at all. Normally, like, you like the first one is how it pretty much goes, or like, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 3 are thought of as the best, as well as New Nightmare, but 8 is just so ridiculous, and I just enjoy the shit out of it because of that, so.
Yeah, I also found the soundtrack for That Thing You Do on CD, so I picked that up because it's got some decent tunes on there.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed that movie as a musician, and just for the kind of sign of the times for what it was for the time it came out, and kind of the throwback vibes that it had, basically being an old pop rock band around the time of the Beatles and the Monkees and all that kind of crap that was, well, not crap, all of it, you know what I mean? Everyone wanted to be the Beatles, so everyone tried to take that
just
pop
got
sensibility.
Triggered.
I was going to say, I heard you like do that angry laugh. You're like, I'm going to fucking stab you.
No. I don't. Like, literally, I don't know. 12 years ago, I might have been a lot more pissed about that statement when I liked the Beatles a lot more. These days, I give way less of a fuck. I mean, I like them and stuff, but I can be not offended at all because, you know, John Lennon's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah, you kind of look at them as individual people, and you're like, yeah, they kind of...
George Harrison was my favorite, retrospectively, so...
But anyway, so beyond that, I found Wayne's World on VHS, so I picked that up, and it's a copy that they sold at McDonald's, and I kind of forgot about that until I looked at the back of the box that, like, fast food places of all natures used to...
Oh, hell yeah.
randomly be able to sell you like extra shit that was like that, like promotional items, and they don't really do that to the level they used to. Like, shit, man, like, let me order a fucking pizza and get like a special edition version of a fucking movie I like. Let's do that. Let's bring that shit back. I like it.
Yeah, I remember, like, I don't know, I guess this was 12 years ago. I think I've said 12 years ago like 3 times on this podcast today already, but this was 12 years ago because it was when Dark Knight came out. But Pizza Hut had like a Dark Knight pizza, and it was fucking like just a bunch of extra pepperoni. But I was like, I want it because it's film tied in, and I want that. I want that box. I want to eat that pizza while I watch Batman Begins and get ready to watch Dark Knight.
Absolutely. You forget out that. Like, they used to have all that stuff.
Pizza Hut was the best because they had the video game demos they'd send out with you for PlayStation.
They had that, plus all the silly shit they did in the early 90s, so I remember, they had the Land Before Time hand puppet you could get there at Pizza Hut, and those were all the fucking rage when that movie came out, before they made 8,000 sequels to it.
Yeah.
And then I remember one time I was over at a friend's house in like the 6th grade, and my friend's mom like tried to embarrass the shit out of him, and she did, because I think it was around the time that Flipper movie came out, so she got us like little Flipper hand puppets with the pizza she ordered for dinner, and like he was so fucking embarrassed, it was heroic. I was like, at the time I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but then like later on you look back and you're like, oh man, she was fucking trolling his ass so hard. It was amazing. It's good. So the other movie I got on VHS was Caddyshack, because, well, that's a fucking essential movie right there.
Yep. It's a different version than the version I have. I have like a black clamshell version.
Nice.
Like one of the smaller clamshells.
Clamshells. Anytime I hear the word clamshell, it's like you think the Disney movies, but I also think Flintstones, clamshells, because they got clams for their currency. I don't know why clamshells triggers that, but it's just one of those things, random associations you have with words. So I'm going to say some words and try to trigger you, so you just listen up for a minute. I'm just kidding. We don't got that much going on for it. So before we jump into movie reviews, what other movies besides like Independence Day, what are your go-to movies you watch around the 4th of July, like to get you in that like summertime vibes, patriotic? Like, I'm not super patriotic because I question everything. I question a lot of authority. I question everyone as being blindly patriotic, but I mean, I do appreciate what we have here, so I'm not an asshole about it. But I also realize the irony of us celebrating America by blowing up imported Chinese fireworks.
Yeah. So I'll tell you. Heavyweights.
Hell yeah.
There's a big 4th of July scene there. They're doing fireworks and shit. It's a summer camp movie. If you haven't seen it, educate yourself. Meatballs. Another summer camp movie. Bill Murray. Ivan Reitman. What else do you want? Jaws, obviously. I like to drink and watch Jaws around this time, and I'll do it whatever day I have to, but I prefer to do it either the July 3rd or the 4th, obviously, and then Independence Day, clearly.
Excellent. Now, one I would throw on there is the movie Sandlot. They got the big baseball scene, like that kind of reminds you of the dog days of summer where it's hot, it's long.
Yeah.
Some people love it, some people hate that movie. I like it because it's not just about...
Who the fuck hates that movie?
There's some people that don't like it, which, they can
fuck
go.
Those people. They're not people listening to this podcast.
Don't fuck them. You don't want to procreate with those type of people. You can. You don't want that in your life. You don't need that negativity around. No, but I just love that movie. It's a fun movie. It's a good coming-of-age story. It's entertaining in the ways that, like, you see all the way they do these toys and try to get that ball back, and then of course James Earl Jones at the end just fucking steals the show, man. Like, right. He's so fucking powerful, like, in the way he tells those stories and laughs. He's so genuine in there. Like, that's, to me, him being in that movie really kind of fucking...
Yeah, somebody should have told the movie studio people that we didn't want some more Sandlot movies after the first one.
I don't get, like, when they're trying... Like, the Sandlot 2, like, don't fucking call it the Sandlot 2. Just use the same fucking idea and title it something else. Like, you didn't put the budget into it. You didn't put the writing into it. It's just a fucking cheap cash grab for something you thought was a brand, but there's not really any fucking... there's never Sandlot toys in the store, so...
Your rant just now sounded exactly like Ian Malcolm's rant in Jurassic Park. He's like, you didn't earn the result yourself, so you took it, and now you're going to sell it.
You're selling
it.
it. Yes, get me a lunchbox to slap my hand on angrily, because I will. I would also say Jurassic Park's on there for me, right? Because it's kind of got, you're in a tropical area, you're in the indoor, outdoor. Like, it always just reminds you of, like, you can just see, like, the exhaustion from, like, being out in the heat and being around those dinosaurs. It's just kind of one of those things you're like, yeah, that's American, ingenuity and basically a giant corporation being like, yeah, we're going to do this shit. I know Hammond isn't American, but he's got the American spirit for capitalism, so.
Somebody posted a meme the other day in one of the Jurassic Park meme groups on Facebook, and he was posting about Dodson, and he spelled it Dotson, Dotson, and he was fucking getting roasted in that group like a fucking punk ass.
As he should. Hey, so
quite hilarious.
Speaking of Jurassic Park, so they have announced that the actor who played Dodson in the first Jurassic Park is coming back for the new movie, which everyone's probably like...
I don't think it's the actor.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Uh-huh. It's the same guy.
But isn't that actor in jail?
I don't know. They just announced that he was coming back.
I'm pretty sure they announced that his character was coming back, and they put the picture with him.
Oh, maybe
because there's controversy on this. Even in there's the group therapy I've seen post about this, because they've talked about it. That's how I learned about it, is he was in jail for doing some fucking fucked up children shit or something, the actor.
Oh, interesting. Well, the reason I was going to say, because most people are like, Dotson is really insignificant, but if you've read either of the books, you realize, like, he plays a big part in the first book, and again in the second book, he has a huge role in it, which obviously the movie adaptation doesn't have any of that, because the last act goes to San Diego instead of staying on the island. So,
let me be clear here. Dodson and whoever his employers are, hiring Dennis Nedry, that is what fucks up Jurassic Park in that movie. So he's not insignificant by any means. If by insignificant you mean he has little screen time, and that's the thing, but...
Well, people don't realize, like, how much more there is to him in the books, right? If you've only seen the movies. So, and speaking of that scene, I did get my hands on one of the San Diego Comic-Con Stay-at-Home Con exclusives of the Dennis Nedry in the shaving cream can. So I was able to pre-order one of those. It was 20 minutes of their website basically crashing and being down, but I got it, so hopefully I'll be getting that in the mail soon. That'll be a pretty badass one to have.
Yep, I missed it. I was sleeping.
Yeah, I figured you were sleeping. Came on at like 10 in the morning, and I was in a work meeting. I had to turn off the video so I could take care of that.
If something else dope happens like that, you need to text me.
I did.
If I'm not,
I think I would just have to call you, because you don't fucking respond to texts if you're sleeping.
Yeah, that's true. If there is something important like that, especially if it's something I'd want.
You need like a fucking bat phone so I can actually get a hold of you. And I probably would have just ordered you one, but it was limit one per customer, so...
Right.
Because either way, I could have sold it to somebody else. And when I buy more than one of something, I'm not trying to flip it and make money on it. That's asinine. I just give it to somebody that missed out on getting it and genuinely wanted it.
For sure.
So, you want to jump into talking about Independence Day?
You know what I just watched? Me pulling a can off some moron's fist? Return of the Jedi.
Did you see Alien? When that creature was in that guy's stomach?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
You ever seen that really old movie? Empire Strikes Back?
Jesus, Tony.
Welcome to Retro Release Review.
So for Independence Day, this is kind of a retro review. It doesn't fall into the normal category of Another Man's Garbage, because it's not Another Man's Garbage. It's rated well enough that it's not going to fall in that category, and it's not so bad it's still fucking awful, because it's not awful. So I remember the hype leading up to this movie coming out in the summer and just being like, whoa, that movie looks so crazy and wild, like just seeing the trailers of it. You know, the special effects looked amazing. It looked over the top. It looked fun. So,
Yeah.
How do you first remember Independence Day?
I remember seeing it in theaters. And I specifically remember seeing it in theaters with you and Dad. And I don't know if anyone else was there, but I know that it was us three at least. And I know Mom wasn't there. So I don't know, our sisters could have been there, but fuck them. They're not part of this. The important thing is that we were there.
Exactly.
And I remember being very enthusiastic towards the president's character. He was like my favorite character when we saw this. It came out in 96, so I was 5 when we saw this.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
One fucked up thing I remember is that night we went home and they made like some sort of weird spicy chicken for dinner. And
I don't remember that, but go on.
Okay, listen. I remember this very well for some bizarre reason. And I did not want to eat it. I thought it was gross. And Dad was trying to get me to eat it by saying shit like, "Don't you remember the president ate almost this exact meal in the movie? You like him, don't you? You should eat it."
Oh, God, he was manipulating the fuck out of you. That's so asinine.
Yeah, and I was like, "That didn't happen." He was like, "Yeah, you must have fallen asleep for a minute." It was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's sounds about right.
Yeah.
We could get into our traumas, but no one's got time for that shit.
No, that's the extent of the trauma today.
So I remember I had an Independence Day shirt I've mentioned on here before, but, like had the poster on the front and on the back it said, "Earth, take a good look. It might be your last." And, like, I've looked for some of those on eBay because I actually literally fucking wore that shirt out. Like, I wore it till it got washed so much it was so thin, like, Mom just had to fucking throw it away. She's like, "No, this shirt's trash." Because it went beyond, like, the normal, like, aged well and, like, the screen printing on it cracked and stuff from being worn. It was, like, wearing holes in it, and I wore that bitch out. But I remember I think I got that going into 7th grade, and, man, yeah, that thing was beat up. And I remember, like, being hyped up on Will Smith for this movie because, like with the Men in Black era, like, Will Smith was all the fucking rage, man. Like, he was just, he was the summer blockbuster attraction at the time, right? So everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, it's a Will Smith movie. It's going to fucking kick ass. We're going to kick you in the nuts. It's going to be so cool."
Definitely.
And it was pretty damn awesome, man. I got to say, like, some of his one-liners in there, man, like, now, like, I kind of, like, cringe when I hear some of those types of one-liners in new movie trailers, but at the time, like, as a young person, like, you just loved it. You eat that up. You're like, "Welcome to Earth," as he,
And then he fucking punches and knocks out an alien. Like, what?
Yeah.
But it works because it's Will Smith, and you're like, all right, Will Smith can do that.
Exactly. The Fresh Prince can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Pretty much.
And Carlton can go fuck right off. No, I'm just kidding. Carlton can go voice on our Extreme Ghostbusters.
Basically.
So I just remember, like, watching it, and, like, I was really big into the X-Files and sci-fi in general at the time, right? Anything alien related.
I love X-Files too.
Huh. It's funny. Like, we're brothers or something.
No, I was quoting Independence Day, but you know, the guy when he walks by it, they zoom in and he's just, I love X-Files too. He says on the phone to some fucking person complaining about their cable and shit.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Which is funny because in the X-Files movie, which came out I think 2 years after this, Mulder gets really drunk after he gets fired from the FBI, and he's like, goes out into the alleyway to take a piss, and is pissing on the wall, and right where he's pissing above it is Independence Day poster.
Oh, that's awesome.
In the alleyway.
Throwing some shade there, at least just a nod to the sci-fi universe there.
Pretty funny.
So I love how that movie opens up. You know, you kind of get this thing in there, and you kind of see space. And you're like, oh, this is kind of neat. And then it starts shaking, and you get to see all the dust and debris go around, like, oh, Earth footsteps, and you get to see those, like, shake out of there, implying that, like, nothing's disturbed the surface of the moon since.
Yeah.
And then you get to see that guy like fucking
cool.
playing. He's like got a putting practice mat in there, and you're like, oh god, so fucking 90s right there. You know, like one of those putt mats that return to you like it was in like the Sharper Image and everything else. Like that was a hot item back then. Everyone wanted to have those in the 80s and 90s. It's like, oh, it'll pop your golf ball back to you. And this guy's on night shift, you know, so he's basically fucking around to stay awake. I love it. It's a great opening.
Yeah, you got the REM soundtrack going there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, the music on there actually fits the movie very well. It really sets the tone for it. You're like, it's an obvious one. Like, that's a totally obvious song for it. But for the time and the place, like, that was the right song for it, right? You couldn't have picked a better tune to put there.
Yeah.
I forgot how much I liked the score to this movie, too. Like, the score...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's really good. It really has some good emotional cues in there.
I was doing some reading, and I read that so a company called La La Land did a limited record release of the score, which I'm going to have to look up.
Oh, hell yeah, that'd be sweet.
But there's some liner notes on it, apparently, and the composer talks about how the drum rhythm during the invasion scenes is Morse code for die.
That's fucking clever, considering they use Morse code in the movie at the end as part of the...
Exactly.
I like that. That's
and
awesome.
when President Whitmore asked the aliens, what is it you want us to do? Through Oaken's voice. Die. It's fucking hilarious and shit.
Oh, yeah. No, that movie's... The pacing on it's excellent. So I did watch the extended version for my viewing before this one, just because you'd mentioned a few things about it. And so I want to talk about that real quick. So Russell's character and his family... I remember I read the book... And I think I had the novelization, before the movie came out. So I remember having read it before I saw the movie. So there are certain things I was kind of expecting, you know, but visualizing how it actually happens, or I was reading part of it. I think maybe I hadn't read the whole thing, but I just remember, you know, reading about Russell's family in the book a little bit, and there being some things that weren't actually in the movie that were a little bit more elaborate. And I feel like a lot of the extended cut evolves around that. And I think he has one of the most noble character arcs in the whole movie, you know, because he's this fuck up, but he's a family man. You know, in the extended version, you find out, you know, that he'd lost his wife, and that his youngest son was on medicine, and you know, he's trying to talk to him like, hey, you know, your mom was on medicine like that too. So there's some moments that make him a little more of a tender character, that you more caring, nurturing, and stuff that you see in the extended cut that's not in the regular cut. In the regular cut, you kind of get this bumbling idiot that's, you know, he's likable, he's funny, and you know, you do get to see him redeem himself, and like, you know, it's pretty impactful. Like when he's looking down and he realizes that his missile's like jammed, and everyone's kind of disappointed right there, and then you got the big music cue that's, you know, kind of shows the disappointment, and then he's like looks down at the photo of his family he's got in the airplane, and kind of makes that sacrifice and realizes what he's going to do. And I think that's a pretty powerful character arc for him. I really enjoyed that part of it. I definitely see why they cut that stuff out of the regular version, but the extended cut does build a little bit more on his character and makes you care even more about him when he does sacrifice himself at the end.
Yeah, so he's one of those things about the movie that's kind of open. Like, because he says he was abducted by aliens. Do you think he was abducted by aliens before they showed up?
Let me reread the novelization, I'll get back to you, but I feel like he was, because, you know, he's talking about it and he says, I'm back. And, you
right, know, like when he says I'm back, it gives you the clue of where he's sane at that point, I think, you know? When he's about to kill himself, he knows what's up and everything. He's not been drinking. He thinks...
Yes.
I think that's where he's honest with himself. So...
Yeah, and I think that's... They don't get into that too much, but that is something like... I think you see him sober up enough, you know, that they need his help. So he's sober there. But you also see like another glimmer there on the extended cut where as they're getting to Area 51 and they're starting to go down and they're taking the alien down, you see him roll by with the alien... And Russell flips his shit. He's like, look, my son needs help. He's going to die. Like, if you don't give him help, he's going to die. Yeah. And he grabs, I think, Dr. Oaken. And Dr. Oaken, send somebody else down to go help his son, which, kind of adds a little bit more stakes to his character there, but in the grand scheme of thing, doesn't necessarily fit that spot of the movie with the other tempo and pacing going on with it.
Right.
But yeah, I totally 100% believe that character would have been or had been abducted in that. By the time you see him sober up and go on there and make that decision to sacrifice himself, and then that response that he has, it's definitely one of those things where, like, yeah, he's definitely coming back and getting his, I don't know if you'd call it his revenge, it's his sacrifice, however you want to look at that, but I think that was his way of paying back, because I think that's really what fucked him up. And then between that and his wife's death, which they don't really discuss, but I mean, I think those two events would clearly be the important parts of that character's arc that weren't discussed much, but kind of led him to where he was.
So, a couple things about the effects in this movie. They hold up pretty well still. Most of them. There's a couple CGI bits here and there where you're like, alright, that's fucked. But for the most part, it works. And you know why? This movie holds the record for most miniature models ever in one film.
Yes, it's pretty crazy. Like, when you think about that, and like you think of every making of Star Wars you've seen where they show all these miniatures and models, even from the first ones and even the Death Star, it's got nothing on this.
Yeah. And then you think about it, you're like, oh, well, I mean, that makes sense. All the buildings they blew up and everything, those are models mixed with CGI, mixed with slow-motion explosions and all sorts of shit, layering and stuff, but...
Oh, yeah, that movie is way ahead of its time, because it did a good job of using practical effects as much as possible, compositing digital effects in there as well, and then using miniatures to kind of get realistic stuff in there, and so I think it's some of the scenes where you see the fire tear down the street, right? Well, fire doesn't really travel that way. And so when they were filming that, they're like, oh, we could do that in CGI and it would, take all this time and money. And they're like, well, why don't we film it vertically? Because fire will rise, and we'll put a camera at the top and, just seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff. They did some pretty awesome things in there. And I know what, I know what you're talking about, because there's a few scenes where the CGI blue screen overlay, some of the lighting on there isn't perfect with what happens from behind. But that was any movie in the 90s, but overall it really holds up. I mean, look at that.
And I was about to say, the creature and alien effects are fucking great, so...
Oh yeah, those look absolutely amazing. Like the puppeteers they had in there and all the puppets they had for that, and like how realistic and alive that thing looks. They're able to capture all that in there.
And that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie still, is when they're dissecting it and it comes alive. And it was one of my favorites when I was a kid, but it fucking scared the shit out of me every time.
Oh, yeah. It was it was a powerful scene, right? There's those moments in there that you really feel like, oh, yeah, that is horrifying that this one creature's alive. And I think they do a good job in that movie of not, like, putting a bunch of aliens on the ground invading. You get just enough of them to know that they're, like, what they're like, they're organic. You can kind of figure out, you can defeat them, but their technology's better, so...
for sure.
One of the special effects things I loved in it, which, they used to tout all the time, and I can't remember if this was something that would have been like on HBO or whatever when it came on TV, when they do the making of and, fill little time slots to get to those prime time. Like at 7 o'clock tonight, they got to fill time somehow, so they'd put on like making of or behind the scene featurettes for movies. And I remember seeing this one, and it must have been on TV then at the time, but how they're blowing up the White House. And they make a 1/14th scale model of the White House. And, they talk about how they actually made it out of porcelain or plaster and porcelain and all that, and did it piece by piece. And, like, the way they broke it down, they said, like, even they were amazed, like, how good it looked when they're, shooting video of it and filming it and, just kind of seeing what it looked like when they zoomed in on it. And seeing that thing blow up, it looks like a real building. It doesn't look like a miniature just blowing up. I mean, it feels like the real deal.
Right. If you look at the cover of the VHS and all that, that's the White House. Mm-hmm. Their version of the White House.
Yeah, no, it's really well done. I guess...
So there's a... a classic scene with Harvey Fierstein. You know, the classic scene where we always quote,
yes.
David, why did I just send my mother to Atlanta?
But when he's saying, apparently there's a line that was overdubbed here. And I read about it before I heard it today, and I confirmed as an audio engineer, oh yeah, you can tell that that's dubbed.
Which line is it?
But it's the line where he says, forget my lawyer.
What did he say before?
Fuck my lawyer.
Oh, fuck my lawyer. Yeah, they should have kept that, but they prop one. I think
for ratings.
At the time, I think you get one F-bomb per PG-13 rating.
Which I don't know whether there's another fuck in this movie, but...
Or there may not have been in the 90s. They could have changed that rule, so who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but...
That makes a lot of sense. I love his character, though, and so when we were out in L.A. for FanFest last year, the building that... I always forget her name. Is that Vivica A. Fox that was the actress?
Yeah.
Yeah, so her character's stripper friend that's like going to go up on the rooftop out there. She's like, look, I made this sign. That building, we saw that when we got out to L.A., and it's just one of those happy accidents because it's like you get an amazing view of it driving into the Biltmore parking garage. And so after that, we're making quotes about it the whole time. Oh, my God, David. And so we were just quoting Independence Day like a bunch of crazy people. It was beautiful.
Vivica A. Fox got the job on Kill Bill because of Independence Day, is what I heard. Tarantino liked her performance in that.
I could see that. She actually does a good job in there because, right, she shows a lot of humility in there, especially working with the First Lady in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the acting in there holds up pretty well. Some of it's cheesy. Some of the Will Smith one-liners are cheesy, but you get away with it because it's Will Smith.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the fucking President Whitmore's speech at the end is like, Jesus Christ, like, it's really fucking well done for what it is.
Yeah.
And then, thinking about the current state of the world right now, you're just like, man, people need to watch this movie and just listen to that. Like, people just need to come together and stop being a bunch of assholes. Like, because that's what he's talking about. We're no longer just, like, we're all uniting as people of Earth. And there's I don't know, that just gives you like that sparkle of hope that you're looking for in the world right now. So a pretty hopeful, good message in there, right? The odds may be against us or things may not be looking well, but there's still that hope. It's like in Ghostbusters 2, like when they're trying to figure out something hopeful, something good, something decent, something pure.
Anal sex?
I don't know how pure that is, but I guess it depends on who you talk to.
It's pure in the eyes of the Lord.
I mean, it's... I'm sure it's in someone's Bible.
No, it's pure if you're avoiding the other kind. The really no hole in God's eyes if you're not married, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's the practice place.
Exactly.
It's like the batting cages instead of the actual baseball diamond.
You could think of it that way.
Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, we got off on a weird tangent there. Don't mind us. So what else
We don't talk anywhere near as much anal as Kevin Smith's podcast, so we're okay. They're the #1 anal podcast.
Yeah, I think he's always talking about that. If you listen to his episode about Joel Schumacher and all the banging that was going on with Joel Schumacher's life, then clearly you can't be offended by us if you listen to his.
Oh, yeah.
So I like the spaceship designs in there, the alien ship designs. I think that's pretty sweet. I like how they brought Area 51 to there. Like my friend Joel and I growing up, like he was obsessed with Area 51. He loved that shit. Like he had a map that like he marked out where he thought Area 51 was based on everything that like he'd done and researched, right? Keep in mind this is like before the internet really had easy access to that, and he didn't have internet at home. Like so if he did anything like that, it was at the library. But even then there wasn't much on there. But his dad was also a map maker, so cartographer.
That's amazing.
So it was pretty cool to see like that he had that marked off and like very knowledgeable on the subject. So it's kind of fun to see that they put that in the movie. And I guess the United States government was pissed about that. So they were working with the United States government for some of the war-type scenes and the accuracy of the military stuff, right? Which lots of times you'll consult with them on that, but they wanted them to use a different name other than Area 51. And since they wouldn't compromise on that, that pissed the government off. So you're like, just kind of reaffirms that it's there. Everyone knows it, but it's going on. So, and then it was funny because even in the movie when Will Smith lands or crashes his plane and whoops E.T.'s ass, basically. Says, I'm going to line him up here next to all y'all. And then Russell stops to find him. You need a ride, soldier? Yeah, he's like, no, there's a base. He's like, it's not on the map. Trust me, I saw it when I was flying overhead. You know, kind of one of those things. Anyone that's been in the air over there kind of would have seen it, so.
Trust me, it's there.
Mm-hmm. But I love that whole sequence. Like, you get to go in there into Area 51, and the nice thing about the Area 51 is, like, they don't go, like, all with the crazy in and outs in there. Like, it looks like it's pretty regular besides some of the area where they're storing the aliens in the ship. Right, it looks just like normal government lab, so I thought that fit pretty well with the theme for it, you know.
Yep,
and
I like those scenes.
I don't know, that's such a good movie. And then the alien puppet looks so good in those scenes. And then Dr. Oaken, like, it took me forever to realize this, but you know, you ever just have those movie epiphanies where you're like, holy shit. Well, Dr. Oaken, you know, also played Data in Star Trek, and you're like, how the fuck did I not put two and two together on there? And then you're like, well, I guess he doesn't fucking look like himself, and he's more animated, you know. As a droid on Star Trek, he's very kind of robotic, got that golden-looking makeup, look like a wannabe C-3PO. Just kidding, he doesn't look that much like 3PO. But just kind of has that attitude, yet in Independence Day, he's got this crazy beard and crazy long hair, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, I can see that. But it's just fun, like, seeing somebody play such a different character. Like, that's a good actor right there, right? Just to see that they can do something so different than what you're expecting that you don't even realize it's the same person. So what are your final thoughts on this movie before we move on?
Not many. I like the toy line. We had the toy line, a couple things for the toy line as a kid, and recently I've been collecting that, so.
So fun thing about that toy line. So we already talked about Extreme Ghostbusters, and like my dad, like, kind of making fun of me or whatever for buying Extreme Ghostbusters Egon, but he was less of a dick once he realized I was going to keep buying what I wanted anyway, and it was buying some Independence Day toys. So I bought the F-18 fighter jet, and I believe you had the alien vehicle, or I had both of them or whatever, and we'd share and play with them, and then a bunch of the action figures as well. And those action figures are pretty cool at the time, especially, right, you know, they came with like their flight helmets and all that stuff, and the accessories they had were pretty good, you know, and they always give you extra weapons that you don't ever see in the movie, like Will Smith never fired a rocket launcher, but god damn it, he came with one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, like, their battle armor, you're like, they never had armor like that either, but god damn it, he came with it.
They're pretty dope figures, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny, because I keep, a lot of people probably get a lot of toys from, like, Kenner in the mail. And it's bizarre, because I'm buying both Trendmasters lines right now. I'm Trendmastersing it up.
Oh, yeah, you're all about that Trendmasters life, right? Which, they didn't have a lot of other lines. I think they did the Godzilla line, too. Didn't Trendmasters do that as well?
I believe so.
Yeah, so they didn't do a lot. They're kind of a short-lived toy company, which maybe that explains why some of their stuff's more expensive, because I don't think they quite hit as wide releases as they could have. But yeah, the only one I've repurchased so far since we've been doing this podcast is the alien in the tube, basically, that you see down in Area 51. This is kind of like a later release toy in the line. It didn't come with any of the mission discs. And when I was younger, I thought it was a Suncoast exclusive because that's where I bought it when I was a kid. I never saw it anywhere else. So it may have been like a specialty shop exclusive. But, you know, it had a little red light on so you could turn it on in there. And then on the toy, it comes with a little cardboard alien in there. And then it came with a little wire bendable alien that you can put in or out of the tube, which is pretty sweet. Obviously, it doesn't hold water or anything, but I just thought that was such a simple toy that's so cool to get some of those other things in there that aren't necessarily like just for action. Like you can get a couple of those, and then you can build like a background or make the scene in there and like recreate those things, those moments in the movie.
Yeah. I today in the mail, I literally today got in the mail a Ultimate Commander from the Trendmasters line, and it says Collector's Series and has a different sticker, and the writing's in yellow as opposed to white than the other figures. It has mission disc number 1, and I can't find much about it online. Like, I don't know how limited it was or when it was released. Even on like the Independence Day fandom wiki, there's like not a lot of information on it other than it was released. Here's a picture of it.
Yeah, so if you
Trendmasters did it.
Yeah, if you know anyone that worked for Trendmasters in the 90s or have any inside information on that, let us know, because that's something we'd like to know more of, because obviously Extreme Ghostbusters is pretty awesome. Independence Day is awesome. The 90s Godzilla movie was whatever, but it's still a Trendmasters line, and that's a kind of one of those toy companies I'd love to hear more about. But man, we played those a lot, man, especially those ships. Those ships are cool, because I liked how the top of the alien ship would come off, and you could put the little alien in there.
Yeah, for sure.
And the cool light up in there, right? It felt like you're in the alien spaceship, so, I mean, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm going to be getting those eventually for sure. There's some cool toys in that line, so.
The only thing that pisses me off about some of those toys then, and it just makes it difficult for collecting, is like battle damage shit. Because no one ever fucking has those parts, and if they do, they're like trying to overcharge you out the ass on eBay for them or wherever you find them, right? So the F-18 Hornet, I think one of the tail fins comes off on there is like battle damage. I think the alien ship had a few pieces that would come off for battle damage.
And so they both shot missiles and shit too, so.
Yeah, and so anytime you have that stuff, it's frustrating as a collector because people rarely have those parts. So you're like, oh.
Speaking of missing parts, I just got the Extreme Ghostbusters Ecto one in the mail last week also, since we recorded the last podcast. I'm only missing 3 of those pieces on it. I don't even necessarily care enough to get those 3 pieces. If I see them, I might pick them up. But the fact is, I got that thing for about $70 shipped.
And that's a hell of a deal, considering a lot of those are going for easily over 100, 120 plus shipping on some of them.
And they're less complete than mine. So it's pretty crazy. I'm happy about that. I had that one as a kid, and I was always kind of like, recently, in the last couple months, how I've been spending a lot of time on eBay, I've been lusting after one, and just kind of thinking, oh, one day I'm going to get one. But I just nonchalantly bid on one when it was $55. I think it was like $10 shipping. I ended up getting it for like $60 with $10 shipping or something like that, so.
That's awesome.
Hell yes.
So back to the Independence Day toy line. So there's some awesome stuff in there, like, right? And just getting on eBay looking at it, like, you have no idea, right? So you're looking at the mission discs, and obviously, like, we got to spend some money, but we didn't get to go hog wild with anything. So, we never had all the mission discs or anything like that. So there's still quite a bit of the line we never had. But we had enough to have fun with it. I think I had one of the aliens, you had one of the aliens, and we had most of the figures, but we didn't get, like, all the aliens. Like, I think that was, like, our parents were smart.
Well, some of those aliens, too, I remember seeing the red one in stores, the white one, and the blue one. I think that's about it. The shock trooper and the weapons expert, which is the red one, I don't even know if those are on the back of the boxes.
Ah, okay.
The back of the box, I'll have to take a picture of and send it to you.
Yeah, because I wonder if those ones came with mission discs, right? They may have expanded the line with just some repaints, because that would be an easy way to do it.
They did come with mission discs, which is what's weird. They still could have been rarer.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because on, I think, the backs of those, some of the mission discs have, like, question marks over them instead of, like, a picture. Like, it should, it displays what's on some of the mission discs on the back of the box. The card, whatever.
Oh, okay.
And And so on the Ultimate Commander I got, there's no question marks. All of them are pictures.
Nice.
So interesting.
The other thing I realized, like, you know, they had all these play sets that were... I'm not sure what scale they are, because I don't recall ever seeing them in person, right? I remember seeing some of the planes in there, and, like, I think you mentioned that they made a desert camouflage version of the F-18 Hornet that supposedly came with, like, the president, or that was his jet, you know, that he flew, compared to the version I got, which is supposed to be the one that Will Smith flew, even though the figures weren't, like, detailed or painted very well in the smaller scale size for those toys. But then it even had an even smaller scale stuff that was, you know, like little city battle scenes, right? So they had a few of those, and I had no idea they made those until seeing those, and they almost look like, I don't know if they'd be like Matchbox scale or more Micro Machine scale, but, you know, a pretty decent sized set, city play sets. So that was kind of neat seeing those.
And then they have the big play set that's kind of like cardboard, and it comes with a bunch of army tanks and like different stuff like that, and as well as a bunch of alien little ships and stuff. And I think that's a slightly different scale than those play sets, the little ones.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's interesting just looking back and seeing that, you know, because you go to the store now and you see incomplete toy series or incomplete series lines, and I mean, I guess I don't recall ever looking for the Independence Day stuff at like a Toys R Us where they probably would have had more space to carry the whole line. But, you know, I specifically remember buying the F-18 at the Walmart in Olathe as a kid. I think we both got one of those. I think that was the day you got the alien ship, and I got the F-18 Hornet. So, pretty cool. But, you know, you just see like how much of a line's not there, and so then when you run into issues finding stuff in the stores now, you're like, man, it's been an ongoing problem. Dates back to the old-fashioned times.
Toys.
Hey kids, Alec here with the Frog Brothers Podcast, reminding you to check out our YouTube where we have exclusive mail-time videos featuring collectibles, toys, comics, VHS, rare DVDs, shirts, pins, and more. Be sure to hit subscribe. Hit us up on Facebook and Instagram to see live unboxing videos and daily updates. You can find all of our podcast episodes up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and most places where podcasts are available. Keep an eye out for merchandise in the future. And remember, second shelf is mine. That's where I keep my root beers and double thick Oreo cookies. Nobody touches the second shelf but me.
Cry, little sister. Come to your brother. Yeah. Oh, take me, sister. Love is with Frog Brothers. Yeah.
Top five.
This is top five.
So our top five for this week is movies with an alien encounter on Earth. So we talked about different ways to do it. I didn't want to just do aliens because that's so broad. I could never just name a top five movies with aliens in it. I didn't want to do top five invasion movies. I just wanted to say top five movies with alien encounters on Earth. So what's your number five, Alec?
All right. This was a fucking ridiculous ass list. I probably wrote down like 30 fucking movies and had to narrow it down to 5, so.
Yeah, I feel you. I wrote down like a giant list, and I'm like, okay, what actually goes on this list?
Yeah. So, number 5 is a 90s movie starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones called Men in Black.
Oh, shit. You copied mine.
That's your number 5?
Yeah, that's my number 5.
Yeah, so, you know, Men in Black is obviously fucking dope. I remember we watched that. Watched it a bunch. I remember watching it in the basement when we shared a bedroom.
Yep. Yeah, I remember seeing that in theaters. I remember having one of the toy guns for that, like the role-playing weapons that came with that little alien that was inside the guy's head, you know, controlling that human body, that little alien.
The ambassador or whatever he is.
Yeah, a toy of him he came inside the gun that I had, right? And so, like, he had this little compartment. He'd sit inside this gun, which is so strange considering it was supposed to be an Men in Black gun. But that had a cool role-play toy line. And, yeah, that's my number 5 as well. That movie's really fun. The first one's great, right? It's so
it still
different.
holds up well.
Yeah, and it's... To me, it kind of has that same vibe of Ghostbusters in some aspects, right? There's things about that movie that are like that. The nostalgia is a little different for me for it. You know, like I'm not like, oh man, I just absolutely love that and go back to it all the time. But I do enjoy it quite a bit, and it's fun to watch from time to time.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So what's your number 4?
My number 4 is a 90s movie starring Will Smith.
Oh, shit.
Titled Independence Day.
Okay.
1996, directed by Roland Emmerich. We just got finished talking about this. Obviously, it's a fucking sick movie. I don't need to say much more about it.
Nope, enough said. So my number 4 is Coneheads. It's a fun movie, man. It's actually really well done. The skits were really silly on TV, and I remember seeing a couple of those as being like a really little kid, but when they made the Conehead movies in the 90s, it's just a bizarre, silly, funny movie, and
yeah,
I love it. It's good.
Yeah, Conehead is good.
Chris Farley's in there, you know, kind of playing the love interest of Beldar's daughter. Therefore, you must north of the Garthak.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it. Like, as a kid, you don't even get some of the jokes. Like, as a kid, like, they're chewing on condoms and blowing up condoms and, like, some chewing gum. And you're like, oh, that's a red condom. And I don't know how they would have chewed that with their teeth they have, but, you know, whatever. So. Sensor rings.
That did make it on my honorable mentions, because
Nice.
It was on my list when I was making it.
No, I put that one in there, man, because that one's... I needed something silly and funny that I could watch anytime, too. And that's silly and it's funny, so...
So...
What's your number 3?
Number 3 is a movie from the early 2000s, starring Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, Macaulay Culkin's little brother, Abigail Breslin, some other random people.
Okay.
Signs.
Signs, yeah.
Directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
Yeah, Signs is underrated if you ask me. It's a very tension-building movie. It feels like a Spielberg movie turned on its side.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. The thing I love about that movie is it's so small in scale for a lot of it, right? A lot of it kind of takes place in just that one house, and how everything is in there, and the way it builds up. There's good character development. You feel for the characters, and it's not just over the top about the alien invasion, right? You get enough of it just to build tension and fear to kind of have the finale of the movie, but it's not like so over the top and crazy that, you know, you're just surrounded by aliens all the time.
Yeah. I remember seeing it probably around the time it came out on video, because I think somebody rented it in our family and I watched it, and it scared me then a lot, because there's some pretty interesting scenes, but there's also really interesting scenes because, you know, Mel Gibson is a fucking, you know, used to be a father or a pastor or whatever the hell he is. I don't know how that shit works, but people call him father. So he used to be employed in the church, but he's not anymore because his wife died in an accident. And they kind of play that out throughout the movie, building up emotional tension and how there's this weird shit, how, you know, oh, maybe God is real because the weird last word she said helped us defeat the aliens or whatever, but kind of not really, but it's interesting and fun.
Yeah,
I like Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Yeah, I think that was the first movie I recall ever really seeing him in and like starting to be familiar with him, right? And he does a great job in it.
Yeah.
And to your point, like the religious aspect of that movie, I'm not big on religion myself at all. And the way they do that in that movie, it's interesting to me, right? I find that part fascinating because it's well done, and it's kind of very existential in itself with the way that part of the movie carries out, right? And is that fate? Is that coincidence? Whatever that looks like to you, whatever you believe in. It's interesting and well done. Yeah. And it's not done in an asinine way to like force it down your throat. It's just like done in a way that like you could almost interpret that no matter what your belief system is. And
exactly.
It's just a way to give you hope, I think, is kind of what you get out of that. So,
yeah, I like when he's like, basically, Joaquin Phoenix asks him to comfort him, and then he goes on that long speech about there's two types of people who see these lights out there right now. You know, those who think those lights are a miracle, and you know, blah 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 blah. And then he explains the difference and all this shit. And he's like, which type are you? And, you know, Joaquin Phoenix is like, oh, I think it's good. Which type are you? And he's like, are you comforted? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's important stuff right there, I think, right? You get that point across that way.
Yeah. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is The Arrival with Charlie Sheen. It's kind of an underrated 90s alien movie. I love it, though. It's so good. I caught watching this at my Aunt Anne's house like several times. You know, I think she had it on video or something like that, or maybe I saw it the first time when I was up there. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Charlie Sheen plays, you know, a character, and it's not like a funny movie, which is a little different for him, right? You know, because he has funny moments, but he's more of a serious role in this movie.
Yeah.
The special effects are pretty decent. I just bought this recently so I could rewatch it just because I like it enough. I'm like, oh man, that's a movie I always think back of and like I want to watch, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But anytime I'm thinking about like alien movies, it always comes up to my head. You know, it's like it's one of those that just pops in there.
So here's something interesting. Recently, I've discovered this movie again. And I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to very soon because for years I couldn't tell what this was. But correct me if I'm wrong. Is at some point Charlie Sheen naked on a satellite dish in this movie?
Yes.
This is exactly the movie I'm thinking about that I have not seen since I was probably 5, 6, or 7 years old. And because of how Charlie Sheen looks in this movie, and because I didn't know who Charlie Sheen was when I was a kid up until, I don't know, at least my mid to late teens, I thought that was Dean Cain in that movie. So I could never fucking find that movie until like last year. I never knew what that movie was because every time I would try to search for it, I never could find. I would be like, naked man on a satellite dish, and it would be like, Cable Guy? And I'm like, there's no naked man on that.
Nope. Yeah, no, I think that's actually a good point. I could see why you would think that that's Dean Cain, like, right? Because Charlie Sheen doesn't look like normal Charlie Sheen in this movie, just the way his character is and the way he dresses and everything.
Yeah.
I do like the alien design in this movie as well, too. Like, you know, they have legs that bend backwards. And so, like, they're walking around as humans, and then, like, I remember Charlie Sheen seeing them, like, kind of get down to this lower underground area, and their legs are bending backwards, and, like, he freaks out seeing that. And there's, like, a moment where he's trying to hide that he's sweating, because it's really hot underground where they go down in Mexico once he figures all this shit out. Yeah. And, you know, he's, like, trying to sweat and, like, trying to hide it, so it's pretty interesting to see that. You know, I think, you know, he's trying not to get caught, but basically, you know, that adds a lot of tension to the film there. So it's a fun one there. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it, or revisit it if you haven't watched it in a while.
Gotcha. Well,
number
my number two is a Spielberg film.
Well, there's a couple of Spielberg movies with aliens, so.
Yeah, I know. This one's my favorite, though. It has Richard Dreyfuss in it, and it's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Very nice.
I love this fucking movie. I didn't watch it until I was an adult. It just always slipped past me. And, yeah, I love it. I can see why some people would like E.T. more. Especially nostalgically.
Yeah.
But I don't even have a bunch of memories of watching E.T. Like, literally, right now, I couldn't tell you the whole plot of E.T. or anything. other than E.T. lands there and he like hangs out with some humans for a while, and then the government's after him and he has to leave. That's about all I can tell you. Maybe some bit about some Reese's Pieces. That's it.
Yeah, I kind of get that. It's hazy, like, and it all depends on what movies you had growing up too, right? You know, VHS used to be really expensive, so like if you didn't tape something on TV, you know, and when you're young, like, you know, if your parents aren't taping it, they're not really going to do anything. Like, we had Ghostbusters 2 taped, but, you know, like E.T. we didn't have tape, so it was like you either watched it when you went to a friend's house or someone that actually did have it. So
well, this is funny because we did have E.T. growing up.
Oh, we did?
On VHS, yes.
Do you have the copy of that?
No, I have a copy now, but it is the copy, I don't know if you remember, the little part on that tape that moves, you know, that you can lift up and see the tape on.
Uh-huh.
Was colored green on that tape.
Interesting. No,
yeah, I bought a new copy recently at Goodwill, and it was the same way, and I was like, huh, that's glorious.
No, I had no idea that we had that, because I don't remember watching that growing up very much at all. I remember watching it maybe 2 or 3 times.
That's what I mean. But Close Encounters, that's really what's my number 2. So I love it. I love Richard Dreyfuss, Steven Spielberg. It's what he did after Jaws. Terrific movie. I love everything about it.
Well, my number 2 is Independence Day, and we already talked about that.
Makes sense.
So, what's your number 1 then?
Number 1?
Number 1.
By John Carpenter, The Thing.
Nice, okay. It's a good choice.
The Thing by John Carpenter, there's not a better... That might be, you know, it's in my top 5 horror movies for sure. It probably isn't my favorite necessarily, but it's fucking hard to say that it's not also. I love The Thing. Everything about that movie. Kurt Russell in that movie is amazing. The score is amazing. The whole plot, the thing about Aliens I like about it is that there's no just boring ass bipedal alien walking around doing boring shit. It's like a whole new concept of what an alien would be, kind of like the Blob is and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think that's
the fucking Thing.
Makes that it makes that movie stand out because it's like adapting, right? You know, it's trying to adapt to a new environment and try to trick people and stuff. So it's not so like, hey, we're just going to have an alien and they're trying to fight it. You know, and considering, I would definitely say that Alien influenced that to not do that, right? You had an iconic character design there, and then, you know, you get the Thing, and you're like, oh, okay, I see that. Definitely understand why that's on your number 1 there. I love that movie. It's great.
Yep.
But my number 1 is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a good movie, right? It builds up a lot of tension, a lot of stuff. As a kid, there's some truly terrifying moments in there. You know, some of the scenes that were like shot at night and they're like driving down the roads and some of those things like that. They get some good scare vibes to you.
Yeah.
You know, watching that as an adult, you definitely get the real vibes of like the family isolation once he becomes obsessed with everything and trying to figure out what this is. You know, especially Devil's Tower. So fun fact we did a big family. You know, we did our Clark Griswold family vacation one summer. And I think I was in the 4th grade at the time, so you would have been pretty damn little, but...
Are you talking about when we went to Disney World?
No, talking about when we did a 2-week camping trip.
Oh, yeah, I would have I don't remember that shit at all.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we went and saw Devil's Tower amongst many other national monuments and national parks and stuff on that trip. And it was badass because the campground we stayed at near Devil's Tower actually played Close Encounters of the Third Kind like on an outdoor screen there every night for campers. It's pretty fucking cool.
That's fucking sick, and I wish I remembered that. My God.
Yeah, so that's something like me and you have talked about road tripping, doing some things, and that's not super far from here. So that's definitely something I would like to see if any place is still doing that. If not, just going up there and like camping out somewhere and being able to watch that.
That's in Wyoming or something?
Well, you'd have to look it up exactly.
I don't remember where it's at. I don't even remember ever going there. The fact that you just told me there is how I learned that I went there.
Yeah, you've been there.
If you had asked me yesterday, I would have said, no, I've never been there. So, honorable mentions for these movies. I just literally have Coneheads, The Faculty. Have you seen The Faculty?
Oh, yeah, that came out when I was in junior high. That was a big one there because it's like the alien teachers.
Yeah. Little Shop of Horrors and Rocky Horror Picture Show are both aliens. You have transsexual aliens in Rocky Horror, and you have The Plant is from Outer Space in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yep.
They Lived, District 9, E.T., The Abyss, Contact, Mars Attacks, Evolution, Fifth Element, It, Power Rangers the movie, Space Jam, Project Alf, Super 8, and the X-Files movie.
Yeah, see, some other ones that I was thinking of that came to mind, obviously the Predator movie, the first Predator movie is a fucking amazing alien movie, right? And it's on Earth. That's great. The second one's good, too.
Yeah.
Cloverfield, Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton story. I remember seeing that as a kid and fucking being terrified of that movie. Saw it for one of my friend's birthdays, and like we were all pretty little for seeing that movie when that came out, and it was like, what the fuck? You know, it's about a guy getting abducted by aliens, and so funny story. So when I think of that movie, I always imagine like that's the kind of fucked up shit Russell went through when you're watching Independence Day. So when he says he's been abducted by aliens, if you've seen Fire in the Sky, you're like, that's some fucked up stuff. There's some good nightmare fuel in that movie, especially as a little kid.
It's amazing.
Which also had precursor X-File vibes. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that carries over from that. So, and that's based on a supposed true story. So, and then
Shut up.
Trying to think what else I had on here. Mars Attacks obviously is one that's on. You know, that's funny. Critters, Howard the Duck, Suburban
Mars
Commando.
Attacks.
Yeah,
shared the same set for the White House as Independence Day, the interior.
Oh, really? That's badass. Yeah, so there's a lot of movies with alien encounters on Earth, and I think those are pretty fun. So we got a pretty good top 5 in there.
That's just coming to the top of my head. I'm literally looking at my DVD rack right now, and I could name like 20 more, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh yeah,
Bad Taste.
Yeah, and see, we could have made this more specific and said, okay, with an invasion, without an invasion, like, is it a horror movie also? Is it a sci-fi movie? Is it a sci-fi horror? Like, what categories it fall into? But kept it pretty broad, you know, and a good mix of scary and fun, trying to mix that, because, like, if we just did horror movies about aliens, like, that could be an amazing list as well.
True.
All on its own, though, and completely valid for different reasons, obviously, so...
This movie is so bad. 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 It's still pretty fucking awful.
All right, so somewhere probably in 2012 or 2013, someone decided it would be a good idea to make an Independence Day sequel. And that's Independence Day Resurgence. And we're going to be talking about that on So Bad It's Still Pretty Fucking Awful.
So
I rewatched
I hope
this.
we don't talk about this for too long, because my God, this was a hard watch for me.
Yes, it was. I will tell you right now, the final act of this movie is complete trash. The first 2/3 of it, there's moments where if you'd shaved off maybe 25 minutes of bullshit, it could have been pretty fun. Because there's some new ideas on there, but it's also like a fucking hot pile of dog shit on a hot day.
Pretty much.
Or like walking out by a hot dumpster of a fast food place on a day where it's like 100 degrees and it just like fucking smells and it's just rubbish. And you got to get away from it.
But then because you do a podcast, you pull up a chair and you watch it for 2 hours.
Yes.
So I have this movie on Blu-ray because it was on clearance for $2 for the Blu-ray at Zia Records. That's what the price tag still says on it. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
nobody wanted this trifling shit.
I had to buy a used copy on Blu-ray, and the digital copy was still good, so if anyone wants a free copy of Independence Day Resurgence on Blu-ray, let me know. I'll hook you up. I'm serious.
That'll be an offer that's still there. It's like,
so basically what you're saying
never going to be redeemed.
You might be able to find it at your local Goodwill here soon.
Yeah.
So this movie, it really missed the mark in so many areas. Just not having Will Smith in it, I think, kind of fucked it up. And trying to introduce a new, younger generation to it was hit or miss. Like, there's moments where, like, yeah, you see Whitmore's daughter has grown up and, like, she's a politician or working for a politician in the White House, and then, you know, she's been a pilot too. So I don't know. I would have much preferred it to be without the younger generation. And nothing against them, and like not that I'm opposed to passing the torch, but I just think there's a much more interesting story to tell that they just kind of scratched the surface on. Like, right? Like, you see how fucked up Oaken gets, and like he's in a coma for, you know, they say like 7,000 days, or basically however many years it's been. 20 years is what they say, right? And then President Whitmore having those issues there, you know, because like the alien touched Oaken, so you kind of get that vibe that, you know, that's what happened to him, you know, and caused that. And just the PTSD that Whitmore would have from all this, like losing his wife and mass destruction.
Yeah, he's telepathically linked to the alien still, so is Dr. Oaken, as well as the new character that I actually didn't mind was the... I can't even remember his name. What is he? South African? He's African somehow, but
yeah, and he's in Africa. And so there were some interesting parts too. That is one of the parts I did like about the movie, where they say, you know, this ship actually landed before, you know, they all crashed. And he's an interesting character. And early on, you know, he teaches you, you know, that you have to stab these things. You know, you attack them from behind. You know, because how are you successful? Because they imply that there's a bunch of ground battles too after some of these ships crashed, right? Obviously, some of those aliens would have survived. You see that there's a penitentiary where they're holding alien survivors, which I don't know why they would have kept any of those alive. That doesn't, you know, that seems kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that is, if you look at how humans really are, there are assholes out there that'd be like, oh yeah, we should keep a bunch of those alive like in a zoo. And if you have a hostile species like that, that's fucking ignorant, but oh well. I did like some of the stuff where they had the technology, you know, and saying like we were able to use their technology and get ahead. But the stakes just never felt amazing. Or, you know, they're like, yeah, we've achieved world peace. But then they kind of contradict that, because they're like, well, this guy in Africa, there's a warlord and never lets anybody in there, and his dad passed away, and then his son took over, and now he's letting people in there. There's things that contradict what they're trying to tell in the story there. The poor man's Hemsworth, I didn't care for him at all in this movie. He's
the great value Hemsworth.
Yeah, pretty much. I can't believe it's not Hemsworth.
It's pretty... Yeah, I don't like any of the new characters except for the African guy. He was very interesting, though.
Yeah, he's interesting. The lady that's arguing with Levinson is kind of interesting. Like, she doesn't add a lot because you never really get to know her enough to care about why she's feuding with him, which I think some of this just lacks the character development from the beginning, right? Because they just assume that you can pick up, oh, this is a family member of such and such, or this person is that, and you don't get those little moments of character development that you got in the first movie. And the other thing is this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy orb, you know, that comes there and they fucking blow up, and they're like, oh, I'm a artificial intelligence, I can save your world. And, you know, from whatever they call those aliens, I think they called them
graboids.
Yeah, basically graboid. Yeah.
All you need to do is get a hold of Kevin Bacon. That's how we defeat the aliens. That's how it ended, right? I don't know. I stopped paying attention.
Yeah. So there's some things in this movie, though, that were fucking just repeats of the first movie, which is annoying. I fucking hate when sequels do that. Right? Like, so when Whitmore goes down in there and goes in the room so the alien can speak through him because he saw it happen to Oaken, so he goes in there on purpose and lets the alien do that to him.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that was pretty silly. It was like, I didn't really need any of that. That was stupid.
Yeah, they did that, and then they did the... Oh, look, it's two pilots having to go do a thing in the mothership.
Yep. Now, I did like the alien setting a trap for them in there. The thing I hated about this one was, like, why is there a giant queen alien now that's going to get down and fight and has her own shield?
Yeah, that was retarded, but it looked cool for, like, you know... It was mildly entertaining for a second, like, oh, that's kind of cool just to see a big alien, but then, like you said, it's also really fucking dumb, so...
Well, let's put it this way. When I watched it in the movie theaters, it's fun because it's giant, big screen, the special effects look decent, the sound sounds good, so you're having fun in the moment, but then you, like, realize, like, how fucking empty it is. You're like, why is this here, and what's this other thing going back? I kept thinking of, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 2... the orb design that Ego drives around in, and then Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with the ship in there. Like, it just felt like a hodgepodge of stuff that was mixed in there. And, like, I think you could have made a really good sequel to Independence Day. They just didn't do it. They chose not to.
They wanted to make 2.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing they didn't get the third one out, because they said there's more of these ships out there. Which was weird to me, because, you know, they said they sent a distress signal. And then you find out they're trying to, like, drill down to the Earth's core. So, like, they put the stakes on there. Like, oh, how do you change the stakes after in the first movie you blow up all these major cities and kill all these people, right? So they lacked a way to make that interesting. So they're going to drill down to the Earth's core. Like, okay, like, so you don't really care, because, like, if you get down to the Earth's core, right, there's things that they didn't stop to think about, right? It always goes back to Ian Malcolm. You're so preoccupied if you could make a sequel, you didn't stop to think if you should. Like, if the Earth's core is that hot, what are you going to be able to drill down there with and extract anything from? Right? Explain that to me. Like, there's some things in there, it's like, I need to know enough about the technology to be invested in why, like, I should give a shit about that. And they don't give me a reason to give a shit about anything. And they make this fake tension with Hiller's son, and then, you know, they bring back Vivica A. Fox just to kill her off, right? Which felt like a fucking waste of her character, right? I felt like I would have been way more interested in seeing, like, what happened to these people in the long run, right? She's a nurse now. Okay. Well, that's pretty fucking cool. How did she go become a nurse? Like, what inspired her character development there, right? And you could have the kids in there, too, and have them be in the movie, but I just didn't care about those characters. Like, there wasn't anything about those characters that I felt I needed to know or see.
Right. Yeah, just bland.
You know, and then they go back and they try to throw this thing about the symbols on there, the alien symbols that are written on there. Oh, these were clear back on Roswell. Okay. And now they're here and there, whatever else. And, you know, the African warlord has figured it out. You know, they've been able to translate some of that out of necessity, because they obviously had a bunch of aliens alive down there that they probably didn't have in elsewhere where some of those ships crashed. And then, of course, you get Whitmore sacrificing himself, and you're like, okay.
Another beat from the first movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the sacrifice there, and that doesn't feel as genuine. The thing I didn't like about that, right, is, like, they made him shave his beard off to go, like, fly this plane. You're like, who gives a shit? Like, you don't need to shave your beard off to say that you're not crazy anymore. Like, just, who gives a shit, right? Just go do it because you want to do it. You know,
it felt like the scene in the room when Mark comes in and he doesn't have the beard anymore.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah, it's pointless. It doesn't do anything for the story development, aside from the fact that maybe you could say, okay, in the Air Force you can't do that because you have your breathing mask. Okay, that's fine. But, you know, they make it this big deal where he, like, shaves it off, and you're like, oh, whatever. It seems
right.
It doesn't have the emotional impact that it could. And then
he got rid of his dick tickler.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know, there's like, the thing that pisses me off, though, there's enough glimmers of stuff in there that have potential that you're like, man, what the hell did you guys do wrong? So, and I think there's a few more Independence Day books out there that I don't have. I know there's some sequel books that came out, like, right away that kind of talked about the war on Earth afterwards, right? And that would have been an interesting take, too. How did you fight off all these aliens that crashed or survived the invasion, right? And how did you handle all that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would have been a better take on it than just being like, hey, we're going to bring more aliens in. Like, I get that, yeah, they don't, but the way they set that first movie up, they try to retcon this movie so hard. You know, they try to say that this entire alien species is coming here to take over the planet because that's the only way they can survive, because they, you know, use resources that way. Yet in this one, you find out that they're doing that all over the galaxy, and it took them 20 years to get there. Which, that part doesn't bother me so much because, like, in theory, like with Roswell, you know, the alien scouting, like you could say, okay, you know, they scouted in the 50s and they didn't get here till the 90s, whatever. You could see some of that stuff or whatever, right?
Right.
Taking time to get across space. So that doesn't bother me so much. But like, oh, there's a distress signal in here. They just retconned so much of it that it was just like, don't even care. Like, even Goldblum, you could tell, was like, he tried. There's moments like where he's really trying. And like, even I think he was bored with it himself. And like, that comes across, which sucks because he's amazing. And it's typical of Goldblum in sequels where in the first movie he's very eccentric, very fun. And then in a sequel, he's just basically kind of who he is naturally as a person. And I think they underutilized him in there. Like, I liked what they did with his character having grown and, you know, become important in there, but it didn't feel like, I don't know why they had to make the president become like this crazy old nut job.
No, I don't know. I mean, other than the fact that he was telepathically linked to the aliens, that's it.
Yeah,
but didn't make the African guy go nuts. So
no, and the thing that you know, they said that those aliens had been dormant or whatever for like 20 years, so they're keeping them in cages alive, even though they're dormant. You know, and then they, you know, they come back alive or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, they don't explain that. Like, Oaken was in a coma. Was the president in a coma for 20 years? No, because, like, they don't ever have that conversation. So it's just inconsistent with it, right? It just feels like lazy writing. Like, people are so focused on, like, how do we wrap this up and get through it that they never made me care about what the characters are doing or where they were going.
Yeah. I'm getting bored just talking about it.
Yeah, so am I. I feel like I'm just on fucking repeat. Anyway, the movie sucks. It's pretty fucking bad. It's still fucking awful. And,
yeah.
If you want to watch it, you can, but you're just going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like getting French fries somewhere, right? So the first Independence Day is getting fresh fries somewhere that are just like perfect. They're the perfect temperature. They don't burn your mouth. You can eat them. They're good on their own. They're good with ketchup. They're good with any type of dipping sauce that you choose. And Independence Day Resurgence is like when you're a naive asshole and you try to fucking reheat yesterday's French fries and eat them later. And you just realize that
I was going to say it's more like
fucking bothered. You just wasted your time by not throwing them away to begin with. You shouldn't have even messed with it. Yet you're dumb enough to try.
I think it's more like finding like 6-month-old French fry or two under your seat and then trying to eat it in the car. You know,
I've never tried to do that, but we need a dog for that.
Exactly. But that's what this movie felt like.
Yes,
that's what it felt like doing.
Yes, that's it's terrible. Don't watch it. We'll pretend like it didn't happen. I'll report back once I read some of these books, because there's a prequel book that takes place when the Roswell thing happens. There's the actual movie novel adaptation that I have, and there's one that takes place at the same time the regular movie does, just on a different continent over in the Middle East. So hopefully those writers are more inspired than whoever wrote the sequel.
Hope so. For your sake.
Yeah, me too. If not, I won't fucking read them. I'll quit. I know when to quit a terrible book, just like I know when to quit a terrible movie. So, Independence Day.
Yeah, you watched this one all the way through.
I felt like I should have just watched the first movie twice.
It would have been better, way more useful. I would have been able to do that, actually.
I would have paid attention to it again, too.
Yeah.
I would have sat there and been like, oh, man, even though this just happened, this is amazing. This is good. It's real good. So that was emotional, exhausting dump of a movie.
Yeah.
Kind of feel like you feel a little angry after talking about it now. Like I kind of want to lash out irrationally, but I don't. I mean, this movie's already 6 years old, and it's...
Yeah, well, it shouldn't have reached 6. It should have been aborted.
Yeah, someone should have not funded this movie.
Oh, it's terrible.
So, how do we want to end this on a more positive note? Because that just bummed me out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty fucking bummed now too. Let's talk about what's going on next week. What are we gonna do next week? Next week we're gonna do some normal
podcast,
something more uplifting.
Yeah, we'll get back to some normal stuff on here. We'll obviously have our comic book discussion going again for the next episode with the
more
Frog
extreme
Brothers.
Ghostbusters.
Yep, we'll do all those fun things again. And we need a fun movie for next week, but we'll figure that out offline. But you know what I am looking forward to? Seeing Ghostbusters on the big screen this week.
Yeah, well, I may or may not get to do that.
Possibly twice. There's 2 theaters showing it.
Oh, you know what I am doing? Tomorrow night, Evil Dead is touring some drive-ins, and I'm going to go watch that. So
yeah, you're really fucking lucky for that, because I don't get to see that here. And then our friend Tony has a movie premiering at the Boulevard Drive-In on Thursday night. It's called I Am Lisa. He was a producer on that movie, worked on it in a number of roles, I believe. And so I'm excited to see one of his movies debut on a large screen like that. So that'll be fun to go check out. So Wednesday is Ghostbusters, Thursday's that, and then I think one of the other local theaters is going to play Ghostbusters again on the weekend. So definitely looking forward to that.
Glorious.
And of course the 4th of July itself, but most major cities don't have fireworks displays going, so I'm really just kind of looking forward to a low-key 4th of July to try to get some of those vibes that I normally would, but yeah, we'll kind of see how it goes. Everything's just been so strange this year that can't make much sense of it right now.
Well, I mean, the aliens, what day do those ships start appearing in Independence Day? The 2nd? We still got some time for some weird shit like that to happen on July 2nd.
Yeah, we could. I mean, at least make things interesting.
I mean,
I'm sure
aliens I'd feel way less threatened by aliens than, like, half the shit that's going on right now.
Fuck, I'd feel way less threatened by aliens than half the idiots that are fucking of our species. People arguing about masks and being divided about it. Well, how are we going to... I saw somebody that went to high school with posted a thing on there. He's like, posted a thing. It said, you're going to now mandate masks? He's like, or mandating masks 3 months into a pandemic is like having condoms at a baby shower. You're like, no, dipshit. Like, you might think that's funny, but that's not really how any of this works. Like, the people's lack of scientific understanding is fucking insane. But it also shows why we're so underdeveloped compared to every other country, why we only speak one language here for the most part. And Americans want everyone to speak English when you come here, but you go somewhere overseas and you're desperate for someone to speak English to you. And they usually do, because they value education in a lot of places.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, anyway, enough about that rant, but don't blow your fingers and shit off this weekend when you're doing that. Put some smoke bombs in your ghost traps. Put some sparklers on the end of your proton wand. Do some weird shit. Geek out. Have fun. Party hard. Get drunk. Get in people's pools. Don't wear clothes. You can do that in any order you want. If you're not wearing clothes to start, though, you may get picked up by the police. You may
shoot a bottle rocket out of your butthole.
You could do that, too. And it's probably a possibility. So just don't get a splinter
Debo
there.
did it once.
Oh, he did? Yeah, just watch out for splinters in your rectum. Because it damn near killed him.
I am here, my son. Irokosake.
Is that the kind of splinter you mean to watch out for in your butthole for?
Yeah, that reminds me of a meme I saw the other day talking about animals that can fit in your butt, and it was just kind of weird. But then that always goes back to mall rats. He's like, Jesus Christ, Walter, there's just some things you don't talk about in public. How else was I supposed to get the gerbil out, Brody?
My cousin was a weird guy.
Yep, that's so great. So if anything, if you
have that coming in the mail on VHS.
Oh, that's an amazing VHS. If you feel like doing anything wild and crazy and you want a fun movie to feel like your life's back to normal, watch Mallrats. That movie's just about the fucking most regular ass shit you can do in America and consumerism.
Yep. I love it.
Need to get the VCR out, though, because I do believe I have a copy of Dogma on VHS in my collection from previously. So that would have been from when I bought it in the old-fashioned times, when it was new on VHS.
Yeah, if you still have that copy of Dawn of the Dead that you had back then, that one's worth $20 or $30.
Dawn of the Dead Director's Cut? Yes, I sure do. Still have that one.
With the rainbow clamshell?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yep, that's a good one. All right, well, I think we'll wrap it down here for now, but we will talk to you guys next week. Hit us up on our social medias. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your top 5 movies are for alien encounters on the planet Earth. Could be good, could be bad, could be indifferent, could be funny, could be scary, could be sad.
We can go back, we can go forward, we can go side, we can go side.
Oh, give me the barf bag here.
Is it something I said?
Look at me, I look like Les Schlemiel.
Right.
He's so, that's.
They even tried to do that in the second one where he says something. He says some weird, like, Jewish insult or word.
Underutilized. If I was to make another Independence Day sequel, before I really wrap up here, I would make it about him and about his book being adapted into a movie. Because, he made it all up. Like, one of the highlights of his movie is, like, that's how I came up with the idea that saved the world. When he just said the word virus. And you're like, or catch a cold. You're going to catch a cold.
Right.
That'd have been a good movie. Fuck, he needs his own TV series just about what he's done since the war. With the aliens.
I was, like, very surprised how good he looked in that. When you're like, that's 20 years later, and he pretty much looks the same.
Yeah, he looks the same. He looks fine. Some people looked fucking haggard, or some people just naturally age, and you're like, did they fucking time travel and get you out of there?
Right. Dr. Oaken about looked the same.
Yeah, he looked pretty much the same, too. And you're like, okay. I like how he makes fun of his friend for getting fat and, like, going bald. And he checks on his own hair, and he's like, oh, I'm good. There are a few glimmers of hope in that movie, and that's basically it. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's stop talking about it before I get pissed again.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got to jump ship. What's the matter? You jump ship or something, kid? If you want a Pepsi, you're going to have to pay for it.
Not a word, not a word. You are here because you want me to make a donation to the Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary.
The Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary. That's a good fucking band name.
Not a word, I said.
That's a good band name. Or an album name, for that matter.
Right.
All right, kids. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.
These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my